Hey everybody, it's Chase with AV Pop Culture again, and today it is finally here. It is the kickoff of spooky season, and we are starting the next 2 months of all things Halloween, horror, fall, autumn season. If it happens at this time of year, you're going to find it right here. We are doing it with my top 31 horror films of all time. So pop that tape in. I got you. Let's go do this. All right. So, top 31 horror films of all time. It could have been top 10. It could have been top 15. It could have been top 25. But come on, 31. It had to be, right? Halloween. That is what we're all building up to here. The big day in October. But man, the fun is not the destination, it's the journey. And the journey of spooky season starts today, September the 1st, 2024. This is our launch here at AV Pop Culture of spooky season. And I cannot wait. I've got the mood set here. This is my favorite time of year. Fall. I absolutely love fall. It is, we talk about it here, cool weather, hoodies, Halloween, snuggling in those crisp fall days with that cool chill in the air. Those leaves start to turn colors. And then, of course, you watch horror movies. You get snuggled in and cozy. You pop on your favorite horror film that's got that atmosphere that you're looking for, and you just let it wash over you. That is what I am all about here. That is what I want to share with you over the next 2 months while we focus on this season. I cannot wait. I have me something to drink. Got some water here in my Halloween Horror Nights cup from Universal Studios. And of course, why not toast the opening of the season with a nice little pumpkin ale? So here is to fall. Here is to Halloween. Here is to spooky season, horror movies, and physical media. It is everything that we love here. It's everything that I love. I love it all this time of year. I am so glad it's here, and I am so thankful to have it to share with all of you. Cheers to the season. All right. Oh man, that is fall in a can right there. Okay, so some ground rules on my 31 favorite horror films. This is my all time favorites ranking, and I'm going to tell you right now, it was way harder than I thought to cut to 31. And honestly, I have a couple that are sharing spots. There's a couple of ties. And to lay further ground rules to make it easier on myself, I had to own them on physical media. So I have every single one of these movies here. There is nothing that I do not own. I had to start cutting it somewhere. You guys that follow me know that I am in the process of rebuilding my collection. And so I don't have everything. I had so many VHSs, I had so many DVDs. I don't have them all anymore, and now I'm trying to rebuild with the best versions possible of my favorite films. And so many of you are helping me do that, and I appreciate it so much. So the big ground rule was I had to own it on physical media, and so all of these I have, and I am ready to get to this list. What better way to kick it off than with my favorite horror films? It lets you know where you stand with me. Now, I love way more than is on this list. Like, there are films that I don't own. Horror of Dracula, Scars of Dracula, which just got announced as a 4K from Kino Lorber. I need to rebuild my Hammer. I need a Hammer collection. My man Daniel over at Cobwebs, steer me right, man. I got to get on all my Hammer collection, but I don't have those, so I didn't put them on this list. Reanimator. I love Reanimator. I don't have it on physical media. Uh, Dead and Buried, one that I somehow missed this whole year. It is in my description of Chase's Targets. Absolutely love the atmosphere of that film. It shot up to me in just high rankings of favorite all-time films, but I don't have it. There are others that I wanted to put on this list that I just couldn't squeeze in. Night of the Comet, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. You are not gonna Life Force, one of my all-time favorite vampire films. But man, this is heavy hitting over here with this list. So it was hard to get them all in. But without any further ado, how about one more cheers as we kick off spooky season with the best horror films of all time? All right, coming in at 31, our first tie. I couldn't leave either one of these out. There's no way. I actually wanted them both higher, but it was so hard. But I figured since these are both Carpenter films, it will be okay. I've got The Fog and John Carpenter's Vampires. I love both of these movies. It is a travesty we don't have vampires on 4K. I got this cool Blockbuster box sets. As you know, The Fog is that small town horror vibe. It's a seaside town. It has one of my favorite horror tropes of the late night DJ voice narrating things as the ghosts literally come back for revenge on this town. And Vampires, on the other hand, is a modern day horror western by John Carpenter, starring James Woods as a vampire slayer, leads a band of anti hero outlaw renegades who work for the Catholic Church to hunt and kill vampires. I love both of these movies. I could not leave either one out. I really wanted them to be higher, but as I go, you'll see why there just wasn't room. And there's definitely going to be some surprises on this list, but The Fog and Vampires tied here at the number 31 spot. All right, coming in at number 30 in a spot all by itself, American Werewolf in London. You can't leave off this classic John Landis film. It has maybe the most iconic werewolf transformation of all time done on screen. This movie has a little bit of everything, including a cool scene in a movie theater, which is something that I love in horror films. Definitely kind of got some weird vibes, but I do love American Werewolf in London. It is a classic. This is a great release by Arrow here, and it comes in at number 30. All right, at number 29 on our list is our next tie, and it's because I consider these two great horror comedies. Now, I left the ones off the list that are like that steer way too far just into comedy itself, so no spoofs. You will find no spoofs on this list. But these two, I am talking about Return of the Living Dead and Zombieland. I absolutely love Woody Harrelson in Zombieland. A zombie virus wipes out the world pretty much. And this group finds each other and becomes like family, trying to survive and make their way in a post-apocalyptic zombie land. And I love the rules. I love all the little things. But Woody Harrelson on his path to try to find a Twinkie, playing Tallahassee in this movie I absolutely love him in this film. Return of the Living Dead is a classic. I absolutely listen. Linnea Quigley dancing. You've got the Tar Man. I've got my Tar Man hat. It's amazing 4K release here. These two come in tying at a spot at number 29. All right, number 28 on my list is one that I think I saw when I was a kid, but I can only be sure that I saw it for the first time this year. My man Daniel again at Cobwebs, he's like, Chase, you'll like it. He's like, I know you'll like it. I went out and tracked down the best version that I could. That was Vinegar Syndrome's out of print 4K of From Beyond. Now, this is a H.P. Lovecraft film, and you've got Jeffrey Combs in this and the beautiful Barbara Crampton And what it is a scientist creates a resonator that basically allows you to see into other dimensions that exists right beside us, parallel dimensions, which is a recurring theme with like Stephen King as well, and something that I can kind of buy into a little bit. Um, and Barbara Crampton, beautiful, sexy in this. She gets into her kind of like sexy dominatrix almost outfit. This movie is a trip, very H.P. Lovecraft, and I just fell in love with it on the watch. I was like, wow, I'm so glad that I got this movie. And From Beyond, coming in at number 28. At number 27 on my list is one that almost didn't make the list because I didn't have it on physical media until a couple of days ago. When a awesome subscriber, Jerry over at Screaming Geek Media, sent me Evil Dead 2. And I love the Evil Deads. I have some cool artwork over here I have to show you guys sometime, where an artist painted me some stuff, drew me some stuff, and gave it to me when I was a guest at Days of the Dead. And he painted Hail to the King, baby. He painted Ash, and I really like it. I like Evil Dead 2 better than the original Evil Dead. I just enjoy it more. What can you say? Hail to the King, Evil Dead comes in at number 27 on our list. At number 26 on our list is my favorite all-time Italian horror film, and I'm talking about Demons. I just got this on 4K from Synapse. One of the best 4Ks I've seen. It is absolutely beautiful. I love this movie. I love everything about it because it is a horror film that is awesome, number one, and it takes place all in a movie theater. It finds it, it makes a big use of a movie theater, and that is one of my vibes. I did a whole video on movies that take place or involve movie theaters. And I just love it. I love that kind of feeling. Demons takes place all in a movie theater, in which this cursed mask basically spreads what is a demon virus. As they're watching a movie, what's kind of happening on the movie comes into the real world. This is a good movie. I told the story. This cover, this VHS cover that was here in the movie rental places back in the early 80s, mid 80s when it came out, gave me a nightmare that happened to be narrated by Robert Stack of Unsolved Mysteries, doing his Unsolved Mystery voice, and he was narrating me as a little boy coming home to find, well, I thought this was the devil at the time, and narrating me finding the devil in my house. I will never forget Demons. I will never forget Unsolved Mysteries. And I absolutely love this film, and it looks fantastic. Demons comes in at number 26. Coming in at number 25 is the first of this big franchise on here, and I am talking about Friday the 13th, the final chapter. I think this may be, I mean, it like, when I think of Friday the 13th movies, I feel like it is this one that comes to mind. And I'm sitting here looking, there's like so many. You think about Crispin Glover is somebody that I always forget is in this movie. And this movie is the Doublemint twins, right? And I think they were the Doublemint twins. But I feel like this one is like, if you're thinking about Friday the 13th movies, this is sort of like the quintessential. You've got Jason in his hockey mask. You've got a young Corey Feldman in here playing Tommy Jarvis. And I don't know. It's like, it has all of the things that you kind of like pop culture like visualize when you think of Friday the 13th. And I just think it's close to one of my favorites of the franchise. Corey Feldman's character in this and how he was so into movies and makeup and stuff like that. It works for me. Friday the 13th, the final chapter, coming in at number 25. Coming in at number 24 is Joe Dante's The Howling. This is the first werewolf, like serious werewolf film I ever remember seeing. I think I was maybe This came out in 81, so I was only a couple years old by the time it hit it, and only a few years old by the time it hit movie rental. Were there even any movie rental places in like 82 or 83? It's hard to remember. Um, but I saw this when I was around 7 or 8 years old. So it had been out a few years. But this is the first one. I didn't start with Teen Wolf. No, I started with The Howling, because I have an older brother and my dad was big into horror movies. And I don't know, like everybody remembers American Werewolf in London for its werewolf change, but this one, the werewolf transformation in here that happened on mostly on screen was way more intense in my opinion. It seemed painful and visceral, even more so. And you see the head like popping out in the forehead. I don't know. For some reason, it always scared me more and seemed more violent than the one in American Werewolf in London. Maybe that's a hot take, but Joe Dante just has that way of spinning sort of a, I don't know. He knows how to hold on to a shot just the right amount of time to build tension and everything. And I just really, of course, you've got Dee Wallace in here, but this is it starts off in like a porn peep show theater. That always sticks out to me too. But I do love The Howling, and some people are always surprised that I put it above American Werewolf. They're almost interchangeable, but this one gets the nostalgia pull with me, and it comes in at number 24. At number 23 is one on my list that I've talked about many times. I was not a big fan of this movie as a kid, and when it came out, it pissed me off. And then as I've gotten older, I have grown to love this film more and more and more. And I'm talking about Halloween 3. And yeah, I have the 4K, but this cool lenticular DVD special edition box from Viavision, I just wanted to play with it and show it off. It has the old logo on the front. Um, this talk about great atmospheric horror movies. You want to see creepy small town atmospheric horror movies. Halloween 3 is on that list. It's on my list. You can check out that list on here. I love this film now, and I think if it had been called anything other than Halloween, it would have been a smash hit because it's a standalone horror film. It is absolutely great. My man Fuzz talks about Tom Atkins slinging dick around. That is a saying I will never get out of my head, like Chunky Box. I will never get that out of my head. It is perfect, especially for this movie with Tom Atkins. But the way they're so isolated in this town, the creepy small town vibes, mixing in the Halloween with the masks and the old Celtic stuff and man, this movie is perfect for me. It is my vibe. I love Halloween 3. Comes in at number 23. Number 22 on my list, I'm going to cheat. And the reason I'm going to cheat is because I'm just going to say the Universal Monsters movies, because it is so hard for me to pick between these. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. If I had no choice, gun to my head, I had to pick one, it's the Wolfman. It's the Wolfman. And honestly, next, it's probably Frankenstein before it gets to Dracula. And then Creature is fighting in there too, man. But it's hard for me to split between these two because these are so iconic. And I am such a big Universal Studios, like as the movie studio and the theme park fan. I go down there all the time. I absolutely love the Universal Monsters so much. I just going to make them one whole set, coming in here at number 22. All right, at number 21 was if you were an 80s kid like me, you loved this movie. It was a gateway horror for a lot. I was already past that by the time I saw it. I don't care. I love the Monster Squad. I love this. I got this cool slip box, and I mean, look, you got those classic. It's fitting to go right here. You have those classic movie monsters. You've got Dracula, you got the Wolfman, you got the Mummy, Creature, Frankenstein, and the Wolfman's got nards. This is like somehow you mix Goonies and It with classic movie monsters, and and shake it up a little bit more with a couple of other things, and you end up with Monster Squad. Great banging soundtrack too. I remember as a kid, I loved this movie so much. I actually really like the Wolfman in this movie too. I got to get the 4K. I don't have the 4K. This box is open. I have the DVD over there, so it counts on my list. But the box is awesome, and I love the Monster Squad. Comes in my monster fighting squad friends here at number 21. All right, at number 20, we are into the top 20, and it is a contender for one of my favorite all-time werewolf films now. I'm talking about Dog Soldiers. Now, I've even been on Daniel over at Cobweb's channel talking about Dog Soldiers. I will talk about Dog Soldiers to anyone who will listen, since my buddy Chance, who makes movies with me, told me about this film. It is Predator with werewolves. That's what it is. And Predator is one of my favorite films. And this is probably a good time to say that another one of my rules is no sci-fi horror in this list. So you will not find Predator. This will be as close as you'll get to Predator. You will not find Alien. You will not find Aliens. If it's listed in IMDb first as sci-fi, it is not going to be on this list. It's got to be horror aimed first and foremost. So no Predator, no Aliens, no Pandorum, nothing like that. And I love those movies, but I got to cut it off somewhere. But Dog Soldiers, some of the most visceral, mean looking werewolves, but you have that camaraderie of the soldiers who are together trying to survive this situation. It is very much Predator meets a werewolf film. I absolutely love Dog Soldiers. Survive the night is the goal here, and it is a fun ride. Dog Soldiers comes in at number 20. All right. This is water in this one. All right. Number 19. I drove myself and my buddies to go see this movie when it came out, and I am talking about Scream. This is Wes Craven's. Everybody wants to talk about how this is like launched a whole new way of making horror movies and being very meta and all these things. I think there's actually a movie that beat this to the punch by the same guy, and it's going to come up here soon. But Scream is a classic. The opening scene is one of the best ever in horror film history with Drew Barrymore. When she answers the phone, the boyfriend gets killed. Ghostface has become an icon. Scream's got to be on your list. It comes in for me at number 19. Sydney. I mean, look, the cast is great. I love Scream. All right. The one that I think was the test run for Scream that I think is even better than Scream to me, and this is going to be a hot take for a lot of you, but I'm talking about Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Now, this is close to being my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street movie. It really is, because he goes for it, and people like I saw, and I tried like hell to find part of this interview that I heard years and years ago. If you ever watch this movie, first of all, it's very meta. It does Scream before Scream. This was his dry run for Scream. The whole like movie tropes and the characters playing themselves and being aware of horror movie tropes and things that you do and don't do and all that kind of stuff. This came first. This was his dry run. But I have heard him talk, and if you really pay attention to the dialogue in this movie, Freddy Krueger is basically a stand-in for the devil in this movie. If you interpret it the way he talked about it, which is something I picked up on really quick even when I was younger and saw this movie. He talks about how the ultimate evil is contained by the way we tell stories, and it takes the form of the stories we tell. So it takes the form of Freddy Krueger. But when they stopped making those movies, eventually that evil, it has now assumed that form, and he keeps talking about the ultimate evil. Um, it has assumed that form, and it if you don't tell the stories to keep it contained in there, it's like the stories are what keep us safe. Otherwise, the devil is it's like the devil's prison, like the end of the 1,000 years that Satan will be loose from his prison. He's imprisoned by our stories, the things that we tell about evil, the morality tales and everything. But when those aren't being told, he will be loose. He'll be let out. So like when I heard Wes Craven talking about this, try to find that, like where he talks about this movie. It was something I picked up on. And when you take that and you think about it, it's a whole other level. And he's darker, deeper, meaner in this movie. A New Nightmare. I really love this movie. Watch it with some fresh eyes after hearing that, and take another look at it and see what you think. There's also one of the the guys in the movie's name's Chase, is married to Heather Langenkamp, and that used to freak me out. All right, coming in at number 17, we're going Freddy again, but he's not alone this time. We're talking Freddy versus Jason. I mean, come on. I'm an 80s kid. This had to be on my list. This is like seeing Rambo and the Terminator go against each other. This is something that you always dreamed about seeing as a kid, and you finally got it. Freddy versus Jason. I mean, what more do I need to say? It comes in at number 17. At number 16 is one that's going to surprise you all, but it's one of my favorite like vampire films. It could be one of my favorite Dracula films. It could be like a favorite Universal Monsters films. It's close to Castlevania as we may ever get in a movie. I'm talking about Van Helsing. I love this movie. It is a ton of fun. Dracula in this is fun, other than like the dated CGI, but wasn't dated then. I love this movie. You've got Frankenstein, got an awesome Frankenstein, you got an awesome Dracula. The Brides of Dracula are scary and menacing as hell. You've got Wolfman, you've got Van Helsing. What do you want? Hugh Jackman is fun in this. Kate Beckinsale's beautiful. She's fun. The scenery, the setting, the immersive nature of it all, man, it's just very universal. And I love Van Helsing. You even get Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Okay, we are now into our top 15. I need to take a drink here. All right, got a little pumpkin ale. Number 15, and honestly keep going back and forth because I think this one should be higher. But the things ahead of it, what am I going to move? I'm talking about Bram Stoker's Dracula. The only thing that separates this from being a perfect film is Keanu Reeves' occasional accent goof. And I love Keanu Reeves as an actor and a human being, so I don't give a shit. This is one of my favorite horror movies ever, no question. Obviously, here it's at 15. It could be higher on a given day. Gary Oldman's performance in this is amazing. It's amazing. And the way Dracula is portrayed in all these different connotations, the way like he's really supernatural. Like he changes the world and the things around him and the rules of the world, the way he can transform into things and stuff. And it's amazing movie. It is beautiful, gothic horror. It is absolutely like I'm talking myself in. I want it to be number one. The way I'm talking about it, I love the movie that much, and that's how I'm going to feel about all of these. But Bram Stoker's Dracula comes in at number 15. At number 14 is, this has Stephen King wrote this. It's based on a Stephen King story. He didn't like the movie. I don't know why. He said the movie was cold. The book was hot. But it's done by Kubrick, and I have done so much film study on this movie, from the lenses he was using to how he shot this movie, how he got performances out of his actors, everything. I'm talking about, of course, The Shining. And, it doesn't get the spatial use of horror. I love haunted house stories. Haunted house and very atmospheric stuff are some of my favorite, and vampires and werewolves vibes in horror movies. It doesn't get more atmospheric of a place the way this is shot too than The Shining. What can you say about it? Just an all-time classic, coming in at number 14. At number 13 is one that was I have always, until very, very recently, considered this my favorite John Carpenter movie. Yes, over Halloween. So that will tell you how much I think of They Live. Um, this is one of those famous examples of this movie had a lot of social commentary, and even though it was very in your face, it was told within the context of the story instead of preaching to you. Um, and now it's so weird because it's kind of shifted to this, but the way it shifted is not the way I think Carpenter saw it back then. But They Live, Roddy Piper too, as a kid, being a huge wrestling fan in the '80s, seeing Roddy Piper. This has one of the longest, craziest fight scenes in the history of a movie. But I mean, just the thought of it, and you tell people, all people say that they're woke or stay woke or woke is bad or however, like, the message is clear though. Be alert, pay attention, and really understand the things that are happening around you, and be perceptive when other people are not. Otherwise, a monster might get your ass because they live and you sleep. This is a great movie, and I love They Live. Coming in there at number 13. Number 12 is another one that I want to be higher, but I just don't know what I would bump out of the way to make it higher. Because it's not just one of my favorite horror movies of all time, it's one of my favorite films of all time. And I am talking about Fright Night.
Fright Night.
This movie scared me so much when I was a little kid and I first saw this. And it wasn't the movie itself that even scared me before I started watching it. It was this image right here. Her. Right there. She scared the ever loving shit out of me. And it wasn't until I got older that I appreciated it in a different way as a horror comedy and a tip of the cap to Hammer Dracula films and things like that. I mean, I realized the guy was a stand-in for Vincent Cushing, but I this movie, I love this movie so much. Chris Sarandon as a vampire, he is so good. Jerry Dandridge, there's moments that are scary, still funny. And like I said, when you can appreciate a movie one way when you're a kid, and a little bit different when you're a teenager, and appreciate it in a different way when you're an adult, that tells you how good the movie actually is. Fright Night is that good for me. Of course, the story is vampire moves in next door to this kid, and the kid is trying to keep himself and all those that he loves alive and fight the vampire. Perfect story. I love Fright Night. All right, number 11. This has to be this high because this film inspired my film Creature Feature right here. And even Dread Central compared my movie to Creepshow and Trick or Treat. Creepshow comes in for me at number 11. Classic horror anthology. I actually love horror anthologies, even though a lot of times they can get a bad rap. I always thought, hey, if you don't like, usually a horror story anthology has 3, maybe 5 stories, something like that. There's bound to be one that you're interested in. Law of averages. So, you know what? There's probably at least something in each horror anthology for everybody that you can at least enjoy. Creepshow, of course, you got George Romero. You've got Stephen King. Stephen King is acting in the movie. You've got a great cast in this whole thing. Great stories. Adrienne Barbeau, I love that story. I love the Gimme My Cake. Father's Day, that inspired the hell out of a story in Creepshow. 100%. That was me tipping my cap to that. If you ever see Creature Feature, you'll say, oh man, yes, he loved Creep Show. And I did, and I do. It comes in here at number 11. All right, we are still going here. We are in the top 10. I think it's time for one more drink. Take a deep breath, let the pumpkin juice flow through you. And we are going at number 10. We're going Stephen King again, small town horror vibes. Nobody maybe does it better. Silver Bullet. This movie has everything for me because it has those creepy small town atmospheric vibes. Maybe not as atmospheric as something like The Fog or Halloween 3, but it's there. That small town creepy, they're all going through it together type vibe is there. And then it's a werewolf story on top of it. And then it has Corey Haim in it and Gary Busey. It has this crazy, scary like scene where it's like a dream sequence and everybody in the town's in the church and they start turning into werewolves. Man, that is like something right out of a horror movie for sure, out of a nightmare. I love this movie very, very much, based on a Stephen King story, Cycle of the Werewolf, I believe. And only in an 80s movie can, a handicapped kid get basically like a motorcycle style wheelchair and roll all over town. I love it. Werewolf film, Stephen King, small town, atmosphere vibes. It gets pretty damn brutal in there and pretty sad, though, in some parts, and you feel bad for this town. But I love Silver Bullet. It cracks the top 10. I'm just going to tell you that that number 9 here is going to be hard for some of you to swallow. And you're going to be shocked that somebody like me would have this high. But when I tell you I love this movie, I love this movie. Coming in at number 9 is Friday the 13th, 2009. The remake, which is really more of a sandwiching together of maybe films like 1 through 4 or 1 and 2 and 4, maybe. This movie, first of all, I think it does. I don't know. It has one problem I've gone over before that I can't stand. They try to explain away the supernatural ability of Jason. And by saying he's got these underground tunnels and this bell system, and this is how he gets, and this is how he does all these things that only a supernatural person could do. Well, this was at a time when you also had Rob Zombie's Halloween and all these things. It was like this time where they wanted to add realism to these horror movies and try to explain the supernatural away and just kind of exposition everything to death. And it doesn't work. And at the end, and I hate that about it, but at the end, they kind of backtrack on it anyway. And because Jason gets killed and comes back to life, so he's supernatural anyway. But everything else about this film I love. I'm a huge Supernatural fan. Jared Padalecki is a great, sympathetic, like strong leading man in this, and you actually believe that he could fight Jason. I mean, he's a big son of a bitch too. He's as big as Jason in the movie, and they have a good fight, and that's cool. Travis Van Winkle plays the biggest douche canoe I have ever seen in my life. Makes me want to just throat punch him, just knock him out, which means he did a great job, and I love it. People complain about it. Listen, it's got like 8 kills, 4 boobs, a butt, a sex scene, all that before the opening credits. It pays homage to 80s slashers and Friday the 13th movies in every way. Has great cinematography. I can't wait to get the 4K and evaluate it. Story about this that connects me to it even more. I was a guest at Days of the Dead in LA when I was they had me come in and have a table where people come by, they buy your film, take pictures with you, all this kind of stuff. When I was promoting a couple of my films, and Derek Mears, who plays Jason in this, came by at the table one day when he was done, because everybody has a certain amount of time they sit at their tables and do autographs and pictures and sell stuff. He came by my table And he's a big horror fan. He's a fan, just like me. And he buys a couple of my movies. And I talked to him for a few minutes and everything else. And then the next day, he came back by and he said, "You know what?" He showed me. He actually had bought one of my films, Realm of Souls, before he ever even met me. That's how big of a fan he was. Finding independent horror, he bought one, and he wouldn't let me like buy it back from him or give him his money back. Instead, he kept both copies and had me sign my movie for him. Amazing guy, talked to everybody, super nice, big old dude too. So I'm very attached to this movie in so many ways, and I really love Friday the 13th, 2009. I'm so excited to be getting the 4K very soon, and I'll definitely be reviewing that for you guys. All right, coming in at number 8 is a tie. My last tie, because I can't split these two up. These are two of the greatest haunted house films in history. In history. And I am talking about Amityville Horror and Poltergeist. For somebody like me that is a huge haunted house fan, both of these have to be on my list and very high. The original Amityville Horror, to me, and I know some people think this film is slow or whatever else, the fact that it's based on a true story, no matter how much of it is true, adds something to it. It was a huge thing when I was a kid. I have personal experiences, me and my family, with somewhere we lived that wasn't that long after this movie that ties us to this even more. My dad would not even watch this movie after we moved from this particular house we lived in. So I'm very tied to this movie. It is a quintessential haunted house film to me. It looks amazing on this 4K. For God's sakes, get out. The story is all there. In Poltergeist, you got Tobe Hooper. You got Spielberg's fingerprints all over it. Both of these films are absolutely icons of horror and icons of the haunted house genre. And they come in tied on my list at number 8. At number 7 is another Spielberg film. And this one could be more thriller, but man, I think it's horror. I think Jaws is a slasher film. In so many ways, you could call it that. It's at least a creature feature. But the way the music hits and everything is no different than Jason or Michael Myers music hitting. And it does a lot with the story. This film coined the term blockbuster. You don't need me to tell you, like, it made the term blockbuster famous. You don't need me to tell you about Jaws, but that the music is just as iconic as Halloween or Jason's theme music. Jaws has his own theme music. Creature feature with slasher tendencies, done by Steven Spielberg. Legendary film. Jaws comes in at number 7. Number 6 is going to be a surprise to all of you that it's this high. That this film could be above something like Creepshow. But it is. This is how much I love this movie. I think, and this is another one that my film creature feature was compared to by Dread Central. I'm talking about Trick or Treat. It's a shame that this movie never got its proper due, its proper release. I don't think there's a weak story in this film. I think it captures Halloween vibes perfectly for a horror film. And so there is surprisingly few horror movies that deal directly with Halloween and the holiday of Halloween itself and things happening on Halloween. I also think this has an awesome werewolf scene in it with Anna Paquin. A hell of a twist with that scene. What's coming? It launched. This little fella, Sam, is an icon to me. I love this movie very, very much. Trick or Treat may be my all-time favorite horror anthology. I might have to do a ranking of those this spooky season, but I'm going to tell you, it's hard for me to beat this. I love Trick or Treat. I am so damn excited that Arrow's doing a 4K. I wish that they were doing a whole big chunky box, all the bells and whistles. This film just never quite gets its full due, but I cannot wait to own it on 4K. Trick or Treat. If you haven't seen it, what the hell are you doing? I love this film. It comes in at number 6. Top 5. Here we go. Number 5, Halloween. Yeah, I have the 4K. I have it in a bunch of different ways, but I just like this DVD case. It's embossed and everything else. It's not the original slasher. There were slashers before. I mean, you could argue there's a lot. You could argue the old Cape Fear. There's a lot, but the way Halloween did it, what John Carpenter, what they did with this movie, creating an icon in the shape Michael Myers, out of just an idea of the boogeyman stalking babysitters, and it launched, Jamie Lee Curtis's career as a screen queen. How they've made countless Halloween films now. It is an absolute icon. It is an icon. It is on the Mount Rushmore of horror. And there's nothing I can tell you about Halloween that you don't know, or that you can't see, or that you haven't heard of. I can just tell you that I damn love the movie. And it's here on my list at number 5. All right, number 4 is going to be another shocker that this movie is this high. But if you've seen any of my other lists, if you've seen and you know how I feel about atmospheric horror and realistic stuff, things that just make you think deeply and are right under the surface, and the way a movie and a feeling and a vibe and an atmosphere, cozy and creepy and unsettling, and just that little kernel of it that could feel true and it'll feel like it could happen if you let your imagination run. You will not be shocked to see it come in at number 4 on my list, because I think this is one of the greatest atmospheric, maybe the greatest atmospheric horror film of all time. The movie even says it. It says the whole town is it in some way. And it brings in all these concepts that are amazing, like maybe different dimensions and demons and fear itself. And I read or listen to this book on Audible every summer. There's so much that they couldn't do that they didn't do with either this film or the remakes. I think this film is far superior, even with the restraints of a made for TV budget. And they were filming this in like 1989, and I was like 11 when this came out. And first of all, he's scary, and Tim Curry did an amazing job. This is the first horror film my son ever saw when he started getting interested in horror. And I knew he was down to be a horror kid when at like 10 years old, he'd go to sleep watching this at night. Didn't bother him one bit, and he just loved it. And I just love the atmosphere of it so much. I think this movie captures the atmosphere in the book and what Stephen King's going for better than the 2 remakes. And for me, it's an all-time great, and it comes in at number 4. Number 3 on my list is the first horror movie I ever remember seeing, and I was like 6, I think 7, and me and my brother rented this, and I'm talking about Nightmare on Elm Street. Freddy scared the shit out of me, because to avoid Jason, you just stayed out of the woods. To avoid Michael Myers, you stay away from Haddonfield, but you couldn't avoid Freddy because you had to go to sleep. And that was terrifying, absolutely terrifying. And it's another film that I appreciated on different levels. I started to get the humor as I got older, even just a little bit older. He could make you laugh and take the edge off. But I mean, this film is so iconic. Freddy's iconic. He is on the Mount Rushmore for me of horror icons. This is the one that launched it all. Wes Craven. And when you find out where he got the ideas, like a couple different places, about somebody that was having nightmares, afraid he was going to die in his sleep. And then he researched further and found this small town where like 12 or 13 kids over this, like, was this 6-month or year-long period? You can look this up. Also died in their sleep of unknown causes and all this kind of stuff. Kind of scary. But we're still doing this and waiting on the 4K. I absolutely love Nightmare on Elm Street. It is a classic. It comes in for me at number 3. That leaves 2 films, and one is my favorite vampire film of all time. I love 80s. Everything about this is 80s. I'm talking about The Lost Boys. If you don't like the 80s of all of it, and you say it's dated, like, it is supposed to be 80s. Like, it was the 80s. That's how we were. I was about the age of Corey Haim, maybe a couple years younger than him when this came out. This is what it was supposed to be. This is what it was like. Kiefer Sutherland is one of my favorite vampires of all time. It's sneaky scarier than you think. I always talk about the part where they're trying to get Michael to feed the first time, and they're in the trees and they fly out and they attack like the bikers or the punk rockers, and they're just like biting and ripping their head off and just drinking their blood, ripping them apart, throwing them in the fire. That was not playing around. And you had Richard Donner, you had Joel Schumacher. They were not playing around. The soundtrack to this is banging too. You got the Coreys at the height of their power. Kiefer Sutherland, huge in this movie. It's just awesome. It's just awesome. And it comes in at number 2 for me. The Lost Boys. The fact that the vampires could fly also always scared the shit out of me. And in a good way. I love it. The Lost Boys coming in at number 2. And that just leaves number 1. And I'm not even going to beat around the bush for this. 1, 2, 3. What is it? It's The Thing. And man, it just 6 months ago, this would not have even made my top 31 list. For so many years, maybe because of the negative hype train when it came out, because the movie flopped. And I got this cool slip cover that was given to me by an awesome channel subscriber. Maybe because of the negative hype train, I would just never sit down and watch it all the way through. My dad would love this movie. He would watch it, and I would never give it its due. I'd seen it in bits and pieces. I'd probably seen it all the way through many times in just fits and starts. But just a few months ago, I got it on 4K. It's the first movie I watched on my whole 4K setup when I got my new 4K player and all of that kind of stuff, and started back into collecting. And I sat down and watched it, and I was blown away in every single way. The practical effects, the storytelling, the anticipation, the suspense of it all, the concept of it all, the isolation in there, so many factors. And of course, Kurt Russell is one of my all-time favorite actors, top 5 for me. And The Thing, John Carpenter. I think Carpenter and King do the atmosphere that I look for in movies. They maybe do it better than anyone. I can't think of anything that you could say doesn't work with this movie. It is my favorite horror movie now of all time. It is hard to say anything different. I went back and forth because a long time this would not have been the answer for 40 plus years of my life, almost 45 years of my life, but now it does. And I'm proud to say John Carpenter's The Thing takes my number 1 spot. And what a way to kick off spooky season here with my top all-time horror movie list, my top 31. I have so much more coming for you. I am going to attempt to get 50 spooky season videos out in addition to my news and reviews videos. We're going to get through all that we can. I'm going to do my best. I have so many planned for you. So check back every day. It is going to be a lot of horror content, Halloween content, fall, great atmospheric vibes, cozy, creepy, comfortable. It's all going to be here. I'm going to share it all with you. If that sounds like something that is your jam, please like and subscribe. It really does help me out. Share the channel out there. And if you want to help support the channel even more, consider joining down below. You can join here on YouTube or at my Patreon. A couple dollars a month. You're going to get all kinds of things. You're going to get your name in lights here. You're going to get access to behind the scenes of my filmmaking, other films that I've made. You're going to get free swag. You're going to get all kinds of stuff, special access to pictures, videos. The only difference between Patreon and on here is Patreon takes less of the money that you pay as a member, and I can maybe get a little away with a little bit more on Patreon than I can on YouTube. Otherwise, it's the same, but you don't have to do any of that to hang out here and have a good time. I'm so thankful that you choose to be here and spend your time with me. Just like, subscribe, ring that bell, become part of the pop culture family. And until next time, we got a lot of spooky things to come. Be kind, rewind, like always. This is Chase with AV Pop Culture, and I'm going to see you real soon in this spooky season, like every single damn day. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye now.